Mist drifts low across the ridgeline of the Appalachian Mountains. The forest is hushed, save for the distant rustle of unseen creatures moving through the undergrowth. It is a place of staggering beauty, stretching for more than 2,000 miles, a trail that promises both freedom and discovery. For many, it's the adventure of a lifetime, but for some, it becomes the last path they ever walk. Imagine setting out on this legendary trail, boots laced, backpack snug, heart alive with anticipation, only to vanish without a trace. No final call, no goodbye, no clear explanation, just silence. For decades, families have clung to photographs and fading hope, waiting for hikers who never returned. Search parties combed ridges and ravines, helicopters circled, dogs followed scents that suddenly ended in the middle of nowhere, and still, nothing. What lurks in this vast ancient wilderness that swallows people whole? Is it the unforgiving terrain, sudden storms, or something more elusive, something beyond explanation? The Appalachian Trail holds its secrets tightly. Tonight, we step into those shadows, into the unsolved mysteries of those who walked into the forest and never came back. Because on the Appalachian Trail, even the trees seem to remember. But they will not tell. The Appalachian Trail begins quietly. A dirt path, worn smooth by countless footsteps, weaves its way beneath towering trees. At first glance, it seems simple, almost welcoming, a ribbon of earth stretching into the heart of nature. But that ribbon stretches farther than the eye can follow, continuing on for more than 2,190 miles. Mountains of Georgia to the rugged peaks of Maine, it carves through 14 states, crossing rivers, valleys, and ridgelines that feel as old as time itself. To walk it is to enter a living museum of wilderness. Sunlight filters through thick canopies, scattering in golden beams across mossy stones. In spring, wildflowers bloom in brilliant colors along the path. In autumn, the trees ignite in red, gold, and orange, painting the ridges in fire. The trail has a rhythm all its own. Morning bird calls, the crunch of boots on gravel, distant rush of streams tumbling down hidden ravines. For many, this is the ultimate test of endurance and spirit. Hikers dream of through hiking the entire distance, spending months out in the open, their lives reduced to the essentials they can carry on their backs. Others come for smaller sections, a weekend escape, a week's reprieve from the noise of the modern world. Each year, thousands step onto this path, seeking transformation, clarity, or simply the challenge of saying, "I did it." Yet even in this beauty, whispers follow. Long before modern hikers, early settlers spoke of people who vanished in these forests, never to be seen again. The trail is marked with shelters and waypoints, but beyond them stretches endless wilderness. It's a place where a person can step just a few feet off the path and be swallowed by silence. Those who know the trail best speak of its double. Nature on one side, freedom, wonder, discovery. On the other, unforgiving terrain, sudden weather shifts, cliffs, and deep woods that blur into a maze. Searchers will tell you, in some parts, visibility drops to nothing within minutes. Simple wrong turn can become a life-threatening mistake. Still, people come. The call of the wild is stronger than fear. They arrive with maps and gear, with cameras ready to capture the beauty, never imagining their story might end in mystery. Because for every hiker who returns with tales of triumph, another becomes only a name on a missing poster. And so, the trail stands as both promise and warning, a place of breathtaking wonder, and of shadows where people can disappear without leaving a single trace. July 2013. Geraldine Largay, a 66-year-old experienced hiker, set out to complete a dream, a through hike of the Appalachian Trail. Friends called her Inchworm, a nickname earned from her steady, determined pace. She wasn't racing the miles, she was savoring them. Each day, she sent cheerful texts to her husband, who drove ahead to meet her at planned checkpoints. But one morning, somewhere between Poplar Ridge and Spalding Mountain in Maine, Geraldine stepped off the trail. She may have left the path briefly to relieve herself, a routine act just a few yards into the dense woods. When she turned back, the trail was gone. Hours passed, then a day. Geraldine never arrived at her next checkpoint. Her husband waited, uneasy at first, then frantic. Search and rescue teams were deployed, helicopters, dogs, hundreds of volunteers combing the forest. They scoured ridges, streams, and shelters, yet the woods gave nothing back. No footprints, no clothing scraps, not a single sign of where she had gone. For weeks, the search stretched on, one of the largest ever mounted in Maine. And then, silence. With no leads, the search wound down, leaving only questions. 2 years later, in 2015, a forester stumbled upon her remains just 2 miles from the trail. Beside her lay a collapsed tent and a journal. Inside, her words told a haunting story. She had survived for nearly a month, waiting, hoping, writing goodbye letters to her family as her strength faded. Her backpack was intact. Her supplies were still there. She hadn't been taken. She hadn't met with foul play. She had simply stepped off the trail and vanished into its silence. The discovery brought closure, but not peace. How could someone be so close, yet so impossibly hidden? Why had search parties passing nearby missed her entirely? Geraldine's case is not an outlier. It is part of a pattern. Hikers lost, families waiting, questions multiplying. She is a name etched into the long, unsettling history of disappearances on the Appalachian Trail. And Geraldine was not the first, nor the last, to vanish. Her story is only one among many the trail refuses to fully explain. Asterisk, asterisk, every disappearance leaves behind a family suspended between hope and despair. On the Appalachian Trail, these stories repeat with unsettling familiarity. Take the case of Chet Powell, a 26-year-old thru-hiker in the 1980s. One summer day, he called his parents from a payphone, his voice upbeat. He promised to check in again. After a few days on the trail, that was the last call they'd ever received. When he failed to appear at the next trailhead, a search began. Volunteers, rangers, even helicopters combing the wilderness. But there was no trace. His parents clung to the phone, waiting for a call that never came. To this day, Chet's whereabouts remain unknown. Or Randall Lee Smith, a hiker whose vanishing act in the 1980s terrified the trail community. At first, he was presumed another victim swallowed by the mountains. But years later, the truth emerged. Smith had not vanished at all. He had murdered 2 hikers and retreated into the forest. His eventual arrest and release sent a ripple of fear down the trail. Families who had once believed in the trail's safety now saw it as a place where the line between victim and predator blurred. For every case like Geraldine's, where belongings are found and a story pieced together, there are countless others where nothing surfaces. A backpack left at a shelter, a car parked at a trailhead, untouched for weeks. Missing person posters stapled to wooden boards at gas stations along the trail, weathered by rain. Fading with time, search and rescue teams admit the odds. The Appalachian Trail is simply too vast. Volunteers can pass within 100 feet, a missing person, and never notice. Helicopters can hover above tree canopies, blind to what lies beneath. Families know this truth, and it haunts them. Many never receive closure. Instead, they are left with boxes of belongings, boots, photographs, journals, and endless questions. Did their loved ones simply get lost? Were they injured and unable to signal for help? Or did something darker happen in those endless woods? Each unanswered question carves deeper into the family's lives. And with every disappearance, the trail's reputation grows. Beautiful, yes, but merciless. For families, the trail becomes a thief, not just of hikers, but of answers. And as more vanish, suspicion grows that not all disappearances can be explained by nature alone. For some hikers, the Appalachian Trail is not just a test of endurance. It is a stage where unsettling encounters unfold. Many who return speak of moments that chilled them more than storms or wildlife ever could. In 2008, hikers near Virginia reported meeting a man who seemed out of place. His clothes were ragged, his eyes distant, and his stories inconsistent. He asked odd questions. Where are you camping tonight? Are you hiking alone? Some dismissed him as eccentric. Others quickened their pace, uneasy. Only later would whispers spread that he bore an uncanny resemblance to Randall Lee Smith, the convicted murderer once tied to trail killings. Smith had been released years earlier, and when he was later caught attacking two fishermen, those chance encounters no longer felt random, but foreboding. Then there are the stories hikers share around campfires. Shadowy figures spotted just beyond the tree line. Footsteps trailing behind them in the dark. Voices carried on the wind, though no one is near. Skeptics call them tricks of isolation. Believers insist they are warnings. Rumors also swirl about trail stalkers, men who follow solo hikers for miles, appearing at shelters uninvited, always just out of reach. Some encounters end harmlessly, with the stranger eventually disappearing. Others never truly end at all, because the hiker is the one who vanishes. But not every chilling moment involves strangers. Hikers sometimes speak of the forest itself, as if it were alive, ancient, watching, unwilling to give up those who wander too far from the path. Cryptic theories take root. Bigfoot sightings, unexplained lights, or the infamous missing 411 pattern suggesting a deeper, stranger force at work. The Appalachian Trail is long enough, wild enough, that both fact and myth coexist. And that uncertainty is what lingers in hikers' minds when the campfire embers fade and the night grows too quiet. Is it simply the wilderness that swallows people whole? Or are there watchers in the woods, predators, human or otherwise, who know the trail far too well? Asterisk, asterisk by now, the Appalachian Trail has earned two reputations. One as a sanctuary for those seeking freedom and beauty, and another as a labyrinth where people vanish without explanation. When hikers disappear, explanations fall into two categories: the rationale and the chillingly speculative. The rationale begins with nature itself. The trail spans 2,190 miles across 14 states, weaving through rugged terrain. One wrong turn can mean plummeting down a ravine or wandering into miles of forest, where compasses falter. Sudden storms can transform a calm afternoon into a fight for survival. For some, exposure and disorientation are enough to seal their fate. But then comes the human element. Some vanish due to desperation, a mental health crisis, or the decision to walk away from society and never return. Others may fall victim to foul play. A trail this vast, stretching through remote areas, offers cover for crimes that leave no witnesses. It's why seasoned hikers warn against too much trust in strangers. And then, there are theories that step outside reason. Cryptid enthusiasts point to recurring Bigfoot sightings in the Appalachian wilderness, enormous figures glimpsed just before a disappearance. Others speak of orbs of light or sudden, inexplicable fogs that leave hikers disoriented. The most persistent thread ties into the missing 411 phenomenon, a pattern documented by researcher David Pauly. His work notes clusters of disappearances in national parks and forests. Under strange circumstances, victims found without shoes, belongings neatly arranged, or bodies discovered in places already searched. On the Appalachian Trail, many cases echo these eerie hallmarks. Skeptics argue it's coincidence that the human brain seeks patterns in chaos. But families of the missing cannot dismiss the questions. Why are bodies sometimes found in areas combed dozens of times? Why do seasoned hikers with survival training vanish as though plucked from the earth? The Appalachian Trail doesn't answer. It only deepens the mystery, balancing beauty with menace, leaving us to wonder if some disappearances defy the explanations we cling to. Is the trail itself hiding secrets we aren't meant to uncover? Or are we simply staring into the void, desperate for answers that will never come? Asterisk, over the years, search and rescue operations on the Appalachian Trail have transformed. Where once volunteers marched shoulder to shoulder with paper maps and bloodhounds, today's teams bring drones, GPS trackers, and thermal imaging. These tools have saved lives, locating stranded hikers in deep ravines or spotting lost campers through dense forest canopy. But here lies the chilling truth. Even with this technology, people still vanish. Take the case of Geraldine Largay. Despite helicopters, ground crews, and advanced search methods, she remained undiscovered for 2 years, just a stone's throw from the trail. Search teams walked within a mile of her location more than once, yet the forest seemed to swallow her whole. Or consider more recent cases, where drones scanned thousands of acres, yet no sign emerged. Families clung to hope as footage streamed back, only to face silence when nothing appeared. Even satellite imagery, with its godlike vantage, cannot penetrate the canopy of ancient trees or unravel the mystery of human disappearance. Then there's the rise of citizen sleuths. Online forums and social media groups pore over maps, timelines, and eyewitness accounts. They chase leads long after official searches end, driven by obsession and compassion in equal measure. Sometimes, these communities unearth overlooked clues. Other times, they descend into speculation so strange it borders on folklore. And still, the central paradox remains. How can so many vanish in an era of constant surveillance and digital footprints? The Appalachian Trail seems to exist outside of time, a place where modern tools falter and ancient mysteries endure. For families, each year brings the same ritual: anniversaries marked by flowers at trailheads, memorial hikes, and unanswered questions. Technology has brought hope, but not resolution. The trail keeps its secrets. If even satellites in the sky cannot find them, what does that say about the wilderness below? Perhaps the greatest mystery is not how they vanished, but why they remain hidden. Asterisk, every disappearance on the Appalachian Trail leaves behind more than questions, it leaves lessons. For hikers, the trail's beauty is matched only by its danger. and survival often comes down to preparation. Veterans stress the same essentials. Carry a satellite communicator, mark out detailed itineraries, and always let someone know your next checkpoint. Even experienced hikers can become disoriented in minutes. A single wrong turn may decide the difference between rescue and tragedy. Practical advice echoes through shelters and guidebooks. Never underestimate the terrain. Keep extra food and water, and trust your instincts about strangers. The trail can nurture camaraderie. Hikers often form trail families that support one another, but caution is survival. Beyond the gear and guidelines, there's the psychological weight of the trail's reputation. Those who set foot on it know its dual nature. One moment, breathtaking views from mountaintops. The next, an uneasy silence where stories of the missing hang in the air. Some hikers admit that when the forest grows too quiet, their mind drifts to those who vanished, and whether the same fate could touch them for families of the lost. The lessons are heavier. They learn patience in grief, resilience in the absence of closure, and the cruel truth that nature does not always return what it takes. Their lives are forever intertwined with the trail, not through its beauty, but through its mysteries. And yet, despite the stories, people continue to come. Each year, thousands step onto the path, seeking adventure, healing, or meaning. The disappearances do not stop them. If anything, the risk becomes part of the pilgrimage, a reminder that the wild is not ours to tame, only to respect. The Appalachian Trail offers wonder and danger in equal measure, and for every hiker who disappears, countless more return, with stories some of awe, others of our ease, but all carrying the trail's mark forever. The Appalachian Trail is a paradox, a ribbon of wilderness that invites both discovery and disappearance. It stretches over 2,000 miles, yet, for some, a few hundred yards is all it takes to cross an invisible threshold. From the known into the unknowable. We've explored the stories. Geraldine Largay, who survived for weeks unseen. Earl Romney, who stepped onto the trail and was never found again. Countless others whose names may never make headlines, yet whose families still wait for answers. We've weighed the theories, nature's merciless terrain, the dark intentions of strangers, and the strangers still, the possibility that some disappearances defy explanation entirely. Each angle offers insight, but none provides certainty, and that is the essence of the Appalachian mystery. For every hiker who returns with photographs and triumph, there is another who becomes a question mark etched into the trail's legacy. Families bring flowers to trailheads, hikers whisper stories by firelight, and the forest stands, silent and unchanged, as if it knows more than it reveals. Perhaps that is why the trail continues to draw us in, not just for its beauty, but for its secrets. We are creatures who seek meaning, even when the answers hide beyond our reach. The Appalachian Trail reminds us that adventure and risk are inseparable, that wonder lives side by side with fear. As long as people walk its ridges, vanishings will remain part of its mythology. Some will be solved, others will fade into folklore, but all will leave the same haunting echo. How can someone disappear so completely in a world that sees everything? Maybe that is the trail's final lesson, that despite our technology, our maps, and our endless search for certainty, the wilderness still holds power over us, and perhaps some mysteries are meant to remain.